Hi, my name is Aya. You're watching Aya Reads, and I'm here to talk about my most anticipated 2025 new releases. So, if you've been a follower of my channel for a while, then you know I do these videos every single month, except the monthly anticipated new releases are mainly to put new releases on your radar. Like, I mainly talk about most of the romance new releases that are coming out in a particular month. This is my laptop, by the way. This is different. This video, I'm gonna just talk about books that I am so very excited about that are coming out throughout the entire year. Obviously, some books that I'm gonna be anticipating have not been announced yet. So these are all the books that I know of as of filming this, which is December 2nd. Also, publication dates can still change. So the publication dates I'm mentioning are dates as of today, and if they change, then I don't know about that yet, obviously. Some of them have synopses, some of them don't. So let's just get started. I will have a separate January anticipated new releases that is similar to the ones I do every month, but these are just the books I'm looking forward to very much throughout next year. So look forward to vlogs of me reading these books and me talking about them in my TBR. So I'm very, very excited about all of them. I'm going to talk about them in order of publication date. Starting in January, I have two books that I'm very, very highly anticipating in January. The first one, of course, is Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. This is the third book in the Empyrean series by her. The first book obviously being Fourth Wing. I really enjoyed both Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. Iron Flame obviously ended on a giant cliffhanger, so I've been waiting patiently for Onyx Storm. It has been a year since the second book was published, so I cannot really tell you a whole lot about it. I'm sure, unless you've been living under a rock, that you know what Fourth Wing is about. It's obviously a romantasy, dragons, and the dragons in here are or at least Violet's dragons are adorable, and yeah, I like the romance with Zayden, and I'm very interested to see what she's gonna do in the third book. I will be reading this book as soon as it's in my hands. And the last book that I'm anticipating that comes out in January is The Broker by Nikki Sloan, and this is the sixth book in the Nashville Neighborhood series. I do have to say, I thought that series was finished, but she recently announced a sixth book. I have only read two books in this series, but the plan is to read at least The Good Girl as soon as possible, so then at least The Broker comes out after that, and then I can go back and read The Pool Boy and the Architect. So The Broker, so this is a series that follows this Nashville neighborhood, and they're all very, very smutty books. Okay, so this is a boss's daughter romance, and she has a one-night stand with no names and no commitment, and it turns out to be him. The Frat Boy was one of my favorite books I read last year. I really loved that book, and yes, it was smutty, but I thought it had a lot of heart too. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this one. Then I have three books that come out in February that I'm highly anticipating. The first book, of course, is Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. This is a sports romance. She hasn't done a sports romance yet. And the last Ali Hazel book that I keep calling her Ali Hazel book. It's Ali Hazelwood. The last Ali Hazelwood book I read was not my favorite, but most of the books I read by her have been 5 stars. So this is a college romance between a competitive diver and an ace swimmer. I think this is gonna be a little bit smuttier, I think, because this book was supposed to be called Wet. So this starts off as a temporary, mutually satisfying fling, but staying away from Lucas becomes impossible. So yeah, I will read any Ali Hazelwood book, so I'm looking forward to this one. Next is the last book in the Ruinous Love trilogy, and it's Scythe and Sparrow by Brynne Weaver. The first book is Butcher and Blackbird, which was very, very popular last year. And this is the long-awaited Rose and Fionn book. So they were already introduced in the first book. It was clear there was something going on, and I'm sure this is going to be another serial killer romance. And she works in the circus, and he's a doctor, and it doesn't have, or at least on Goodreads, it doesn't have a synopsis yet, but I don't care, I'm going to read it. I read the first two, and obviously this finishes off a trilogy, so I for sure will be reading this as soon as it's in my hand. This one comes out on February 11th. I haven't said, but Deep End comes out on February 4th. Moving on to A Rebel Without Claws, which comes out on February 11th as well. This is by Juliet Cross, and this is the second generation to the Stay a Spell series, and the Stay a Spell series is one of my favorite series, so I'm very much looking forward to the second generation series. So this book, you follow, I believe, one of the daughters of Mateo and Evie. Okay, already the synopsis is giving me heart flutters. Celine Cruz is a good girl. She's also an aura witch, so she always wants to help heal the broken. Then she comes in contact with bad boy Ronan Reed, who is a werewolf. Technically, she's half werewolf too, right? So Ronan thinks that she's a good girl. Little does he know, all Celine wants is to do wicked things with the bad boy werewolf. Listen, you know I love a good werewolf romance, and I have loved the werewolf romances in the Stay Spell series, so I just cannot wait. The cover is beautiful, just like the Stay Spell series, so I'm gonna be reading this as soon as it's in my hands. Moving on to March, and there are 4 books that are coming out in March that I'm very much anticipating. The first book is Wild Side by Elsie Silver. This is the 3rd book in the Rose Hill series, and this one comes out on March 1st. I do have to say I still need to read the second one, but I'm gonna do that in December, or at least before March. Okay, so this already has a hero named Reese, and if you know anything about me and my favorite books and my book boyfriends, then you know there's a high probability that if a hero is named Reese, then I'm gonna fall in love with him. So this series follows all single dads. I don't know, I think it's not clear from the synopsis, but either a marriage of convenience or like a forced marriage, because she has to marry her enemy Reese to keep guardianship of her nephew, and he has a mysterious job that takes him away, and then he comes back covered in mysterious bruises. I swore I would never forgive him, but that was before I knew the man behind the mask, the one who's fierce and protective, the one who's gentle and patient, the one who shows up for us when we need him most. He's not at all what I thought he was. So this sounds like a hate to love marriage romance, which say less. I love those tropes. And obviously I love Elsie Silver. Next is Shadow's Heart by Cressley Cole. This one comes out on March 4th, and this is the 19th book in the Immortals After Dark series. This one was supposed to come out in December, but I already had a feeling it was going to get pushed back, and it did in March. I cannot tell you a whole lot about this because it's the 19th book in a series that I love, but all of them follow like fated mate romances in a paranormal world, and this is a female vampire, which those are very rare. She's related to Lothair, who I love, obviously, so very much looking forward to this one. On March 20th, Kiss the Villain by Rena Kent comes out. So this is the newest book in the Legacy of Gods series. Well, technically it's a spin-off. It's another male-male romance by her, which the one and only other male-male romance she's done was one of my favorite books I read this year, so I cannot wait. This is Caden and Gareth's story. There is no synopsis for it, but I don't need any. So I said there were 4 books I was looking forward to in March. Technically, it was 3, so I told a bit of a lie there. Moving on to April. April has some big new releases, so I'm gonna be spamming you with vlogs. The first book is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, which comes out on April 1st. There's another dog on the cover. I'm pretty sure every single Abby Jimenez book has a dog on the cover. Like, that has to be like a requirement for her publishing company. Okay, so you follow a veterinarian who gives Greek god vibes, all while cuddling a tiny kitten. So they first get off on the wrong foot when he says some assholey thing, but then they have this magical date together. But she's forced to admit the truth that her family is in crisis and any kind of relationship would be impossible. So she begs him to forget her, but of course he cannot. No amount of distance or time is nearly enough to forget that something between them. So yeah, say you'll remember me. So yeah, I listen, this synopsis honestly is not really something I tend to like because it sounds like too much angst for me. But it's Abby Jimenez. I trust her with my fragile heart. And I know she'll not steer me wrong. Moving on to Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, which comes out on April 22nd. This is another book that follows author. So 2 writers compete for the chance to tell the larger-than-life story of a woman with more than a couple plot twists up her sleeve. So Alice is still dreaming of her big writing break, and Hayden is a Pulitzer Prize winning author. And they're both invited to write the biography of a woman no one has seen in years, Margaret Ives. So she invites them both for a 1-month trial period, and then she'll choose who will tell her story, but she only tells each of them half of her story, but they cannot work together because of an ironclad NDA. So they are competing, but technically they need to work together even though they cannot. Emily Henry, the last two releases of hers I really loved, so I'm interested to see what this one will bring. Obviously, I have to read it anyway. If it's not in April, then for sure in November when the Goodreads Choice Awards come out. On April 24th, Rewinded Back by Liz Tom Ford comes out. This is the long-awaited Rio book, and it's the fifth and final book in the Windy City series. It doesn't have a synopsis, but I will be reading it as soon as it's in my hands. And the last book that comes out in April is King of Envy by Anna Huang. This one comes out on April 29th. And this is the fifth book in the Kings of Sin series, and you follow Vuk Markovic and Ayana Kidane. And he is this is going to be a dark romance again. So he's a billionaire and he's obsessed with this supermodel who we have seen both of them around in this series. And she's engaged to his oldest friend, but of course he wants her. And yeah. We'll have to see if this is going to be a book I like, because I do have to say the two dark romances in her Twisted series were two of my least favorite books in that series. So I'm holding out hope that I'll love this one, but we will see. It's Anna Huang. Like, I know I love her books, but I haven't given every single one of her books 5 stars. Moving on to May, where I have 3 books I'm very much excited about. The first book is A Curse Carved in Bone by Daniel L. Jensen, and this one comes out on May 13th. And this is the second book in the saga of the Unfated, the first book being A Fate Inked in Blood. I don't know if I can tell you anything about this book, since it's a direct sequel to A Fate Inked in Blood. But basically you follow Freya, who's this shield maiden, and there's this prophecy that whoever controls the shield maiden will become the Jarl to rule them all. This is a Nordic-inspired fantasy romance. So she gets married to this Jarl, but she falls in love with his son. I like this book. The first book, it wasn't my favorite, but I am interested to read the second one. Another book that comes out on May 13th is Can't Get Enough by Kennedy Ryan. And this is the third book in the Skyland series. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the last one in the Skyland series. And this is Hendrix's book. And she is a social media manager, and it's her romance with tech mogul Maverick Bell. And he's off limits because she plans to stay the course she set for herself. So I only read the second book in this series. My plan is to read the first book at the end of the year to get caught up on a series. So this is going to finish a trilogy, and I'm very excited about it. On May 27th, Beautiful Venom by Rena Kent comes out. This is the first book in her dark hockey romance series. And this also doesn't have a synopsis, but it's Rena Kent, and it's a dark hockey romance, and that is all I need to know to be anticipating it. In June, only one book comes out that I'm very much anticipating, and it's Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by Victoria Schwab, and this one comes out on June 10th. I mean, just the title alone is beautiful. This doesn't have a big synopsis, but I love Victoria Schwab. Let me just read you what it says already. So, Santo Domingo de la Calzada, 1532, London 1837, Boston 2019. 3 young women, their bodies planted in the same soil, their stories dangling like roots. One grows high, and one grows deep, and one grows wild, and all of them grow teeth. Listen! I love Victoria's writing style, and just this synopsis has me intrigued. So this is a young adult queer romance. Oh, it's about vampires. Listen, I don't need to know what this is. All I need to know is when this book can get in my hands, which is on June 10th. Then the only one I'm anticipating so far in July is Rose in Chains by Julie Soto, which comes out on July 3rd. And this is a fan fiction, The Auction, that is getting traditionally published. So it's a Draco and Hermione fan fiction, so obviously things change, but you follow Bryony Rosewood, and the dark forces of Beaumard, aka Voldemort, I'm just kidding, have won, and her people, the Eversons, face imminent servitude, imprisonment, or death. Her brother, fated to be heir twice over and unite the warring kingdoms, is dead. Stripped of her mind magic and her freedom, Bryony and the survivors are quickly auctioned off to the highest bidders in an auction, and as the heir apparent sister, she fetches the highest price. After a fierce bidding war, she's sold to none other than Toven, a high-ranking Beaumard son, aka Draco Malfoy, and her long-time and ill-fated infatuation. This is a trilogy, and this is the first book, and Julie Soto is pretty successful as a traditionally published author, and I know she was very popular as a fanfiction author. I know The Auction was a very popular Draco and Hermione fanfiction, so my plan actually is, first of all, to read this, but also to read the original fan fiction and compare the two. So cannot wait for that. Then in August, Skybriar by Talia Hibbert comes out. So Talia Hibbert hasn't published in a while, and this also doesn't have a synopsis, but this book comes out on August 15th, and I'm just excited about it. Hopefully it comes out, and if it comes out, I will for sure be reading it because I really loved the Brown Sisters series by her. Okay, so the last book that actually has some sort of publication date is The Defender by Anna Huang. This is the second book in the Gods of the Game series, the first book being The Striker, which I really loved. And this book, you follow Vincent's story, who I also really loved in the first book. And this doesn't have a synopsis yet, obviously. And then the only book that doesn't have any sort of publication date yet is Alchemized by Senlin Yu. Once again, a Draco and Hermione fan fiction that is getting traditionally published. The original fan fiction was Manacled, which was one of my favorite books I read last year. I absolutely love Manacled, so I cannot wait for Alchemized. I am following Senlin Yu on social media, and so far, there's no indication of when this book comes out. All I know is, I think out of all of the books, this one is the one I am most looking forward to. So yeah, these are all my most anticipated 2025 new releases. Definitely let me know in the comments below, what are your most anticipated 2025 new releases? I'm sure I've missed a couple big ones, so let me know in the comments below. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know by leaving a like if you did. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.